You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday the 5th of August 2013. 1 billion Lincolnshire wind farm built and run by Scandinavians. Gay couple to sue church over gay marriage opt-out. Librarian 57 who stood up to a family of yobs was arrested and forced to wear degrading hood by police. Family of Muslim girls serve gammon by dinner lady to immigrate. Malta needs EU help to cope with its immigration crisis. France's top cop assures tourists Paris is safe. Tearful Zimbabweans hoard eggs and beer as Mugabe wins 7th term. Morocco's King Mohammed revokes pardon of Spanish paedophile. Thought for the day, does UKIP know what page it's reading from? And finally, feed me Seymour, feed me. UK news. £1 billion Lincolnshire wind farm built and run by Scandinavians. The Daily Mail reports a British jobs for British workers row erupted yesterday as it emerged that a new £1 billion wind farm off the Lincolnshire coast is being maintained by teams of workers flown in from Scandinavia. As he officially opened the offshore scheme yesterday, Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg claimed 30,000 British jobs would be created by the end of the decade by investing in renewable energy. But local MPs and businessmen said this appeared to be a hollow promise, because turbines for the Centrica scheme off Skegness are made in Denmark. Danish and Swedish workers are being drafted in daily to work on them. Scandinavian Airlines will even begin a 6 days a week service between Copenhagen and Humberside Airport in October to keep up with the demand. The whole construction of the wind farm was largely foreign, with a French company making the cabling in Germany and Norway and the foundations being manufactured in Holland. World at 8 says, jobs for us means in EU politico speak, nine nada non. Just jobs for the EU boys, not us Brits. What's made abroad stays abroad. Gay couple to sue church over gay marriage opt-out. Wealthy gay dad Barry Druitt Barlow says he and his civil partner Tony will go to court to force churches to host gay weddings. He told the Essex Chronicle that he will take legal action because I'm still not getting what I want. A government bill legalising gay marriage passed Parliament recently, but it included the measures to protect churches from being forced to perform same-sex weddings. Mr Druitt Barlow said, "The only way forward for us now is to make a challenge in the courts against the church. It's a shame that we are forced to take Christians into court to get them to recognise us," he added. "It upsets me because I want it so much, a big lavish ceremony, the whole works. I just don't think it's going to happen straight away. As much as people are saying this is a good thing, I'm still not getting what I want." World at 8 sympathises. "Oh, you poor little thing, you should be so lucky." You are lucky insofar that in this era you are not persecuted. Try asking the local imam to marry you with all your tranny gear and see what happens. Our message to Barlow is grow up. If you're a follower of an alternate lifestyle, then that is what happens, an alternate wedding style which ain't in church. If you want a traditional wedding, marry a woman. Librarian 57 who stood up to a family of yobs was arrested and forced to wear degrading hood by police. When Elaine Perry was threatened by a couple after complaining about their rowdy children in Worthing, Sussex, she called police in the hope that they would protect her. Instead, the 57-year-old librarian was arrested by 2 women officers who hooded her, taped her legs together and bundled her into a van in front of a crowd of onlookers. Miss Perry, who says she was made to feel totally humiliated, ended up in court charged with using threatening behaviour and assaulting one of the officers. But the mother of 2 was cleared by magistrates and now intends to sue Sussex Police and complain about her ordeal to the police watchdog, particularly over the use of the special hood designed to prevent prisoners spitting at officers. She was kept in the hood, which looks like a plastic bag but is made of mesh, for about 15 minutes and released from it only when she began hyperventilating. World at 8 comments, "Bloody disgusting. If she was a Muslim and wearing a burqa, the police wouldn't have touched her. And it's the parents of the brats who should be arrested, or the brats themselves. This country is very odd at the moment, isn't it?" Family of Muslim girl served gammon by dinner lady to emigrate. Chris Havergal, writing for the Cambridge News, tells us the parents of a Muslim girl served pork by a dinner lady who was then sacked are to emigrate to the Middle East. Zahid and Rumana Dar, whose 7-year-old daughter Khadija was given gammon at Queen Edith Primary School in Cambridge, are believed to be moving to the United Arab Emirates, a Muslim country. Alison Waldock, 51, lost her job after the family complained about the meat incident, although the dinner lady claimed it was an accident and their child had asked for it. Mrs Dar confirmed the family was emigrating ahead of September on her Facebook page. She was reported to have written that the family was leaving Britain for a nice hot Muslim country where the kids know their identities as Muslims. The move comes not only after the gammon incident but after Mr Dar's recruitment agency was closed down because he'd been disqualified from working as a director, it emerged yesterday. He was banned from holding directorships for 9 years in 2011 after he was caught pocketing more than £500,000 owed in tax by diverting money from his firm Interrecruit into another of his companies. In May this year he was found running an agricultural labour agency, also called Interrecruit, which paid its workers less than the minimum wage and withheld holiday pay from workers. World Today says, well, this totally obliterates the mantra that all migrants contribute towards their host country, and the Asians most of all. In fact, this guy has been subbing off the Brits for years whilst running a series of under-the-counter companies which owe $500,000 in British taxes, and his daughter is eating or not eating free school meals, plus they live in a £400,000 house. I say good luck to them, and could they possibly take more from their tribe with them? I'm sure they'd all be much happier fiddling their own kind in the sand dunes. European news. Malta needs EU help to cope with its immigration crisis. Malta receives the highest number of asylum applications in the world in relation to its population. Only EU help can alleviate a growing sense of despair. Earlier this week, a rubber dinghy overloaded with refugees attempting to flee Africa for the safety of Europe ran into difficulty. As the boat, travelling from Libya to the EU's smallest state, Malta, began to sink, the Maltese army launched a 13-hour overnight operation to rescue the 112 passengers. 8 were airlifted to hospital for emergency treatment, the rest were suffering from exhaustion, dehydration and sunstroke. The story is not unusual. Each week similar boats arrive on the country's shores. Last month the Prime Minister Joseph Muscat attempted to send 2 plane loads of Somali migrants back to Africa without hearing their pleas for asylum, echoing recent suggestions of a towback policy on Australia, before the European Court of Human Rights (ECHR) issued an interim ruling that this would be illegal. Muscat has since said he was never going to follow through with a pushback, it was merely a stunt intended to provoke the EU into action. Whether or not it was a stunt, the move reflects a government in despair. Before Malta joined the EU in 2004, immigration levels were negligible. Because it is located close to North Africa, it has now become a gateway for migrants seeking entry into Europe. In relation to its population, it receives the highest number of asylum applications in the world. This is partly because it's so small. It is smaller than our Isle of Wight. The 17,000 undocumented migrants who have arrived in the last decade are equivalent to 2.7 million landing in Britain. World Today says, I think you all know exactly what I'm going to say. This is the EU gone mad. They should have no say in North African migrants at all. They take a chance. If it fails, it fails. The EU should shove that ruling where the sun don't shine. And if I were Maltese, I'd tell them so. Just let a couple of boats stay in trouble, turn a blind eye like the EU, and they will soon stop coming. That is where Europe and the UK have made a big mistake. We welcome them in and give them money, then resent them for still coming into the country. Don't make immigrants welcome ever, and this traffic will stop. You have to remember you have thousands of people making money in Europe on the misery of these Africans. It's worse than the slave trade we're all being blamed for. Poor little Malta, don't rely on the EU or Spain to help. They won't. That's what happens when you become a doormat for the world. You get trodden on. France's top cop assures tourists Paris is safe. South Carolina's Lake Wylie pilot tells us, visitors to Paris take note. Interior Minister Manuel Valls assures you that the City of Light is dealing with the pickpockets and petty criminals that have recently targeted tourists. France's top cop toured some major sites Friday, from the Louvre Museum to the Eiffel Tower, to check on its tourist-friendly plan and put out the word that Paris is a safe city. The French capital has been getting a bad press recently because of the rise in a number of small-scale crimes on tourists. The Louvre Museum even closed for a day in April when employees angered by pickpockets walked off the job. In response, Val has added 200 police to survey major tourist sites and put out a Stay Safe guide in 6 languages. World at 8 says, what goes around comes around. World news. Tearful Zimbabweans hoard eggs, beer as Mugabe wins 7th term. Put a communist-backed terrorist in charge of a country and this is what you get. Back in the day, Western diplomats insisted that Mugabe, instead of Bishop Abel Muzorewa, should run Zimbabwe. They got their way. These are the wonderful fruits of the UK's Lancaster House Agreement. Why beer and eggs? Under Mugabe, the price of an egg rose to 50 billion Zimbabwean dollars and a beer hit $150 billion because Mugabe had the same idea of economics as Obama and Paul Krugman. Just print more money. Mugabe won his first term through illegal intimidation. He won his 7th term the same way. Raise a glass of beer to the Western diplomats and their great contribution to Rhodesia. Drink one for the Lancaster Agreement, the land seized from farmers and the eternal rule of Mugabe. Drink well, because no one in Zimbabwe has $150 billion for a beer. World at 8, crooked elections. The BNP have had more than their share of those. How about lost ballot papers, rigged postal votes, dead people voting and bussing in foreigners to vote, ref Margaret Hodgin Barking and Dagenham. Mugabeism is alive and well. Wait for 2014 and 2015. You ain't seen nothing yet. Morocco's King Mohammed revokes pardon of Spanish paedophile. Morocco's King Mohammed V has revoked the pardon of a convicted Spanish paedophile after Friday's riots. The man was one of the 48 jailed Spaniards released at the request of Spain's King Juan Carlos, who visited Morocco last month. It is a normal procedure for the King of Morocco to pardon his prisoners on special occasions such as a royal visit. Daniel Galvalvina had been serving a 30-year sentence for raping at least 11 children aged 4 to 15. It's believed he has now left Morocco. Dozens of people were injured in violent clashes between police and protesters who were angry that Vina had been allowed out of jail. A statement from the palace said King Mohammed had been unaware of the gravity of Vina's crimes at the time of signing the pardon. World at 8 states, a king unaware? Not much use, is he? Some of these children were babies, not just vaguely underage, but babies. Surely he should have been castrated under Islamic law. Thought for the day. Does UKIP know which page it's reading from? That question springs to mind quite often, and even more so in the light of the EU elections next year, plus their attitude over the government truth truck with its message to illegal immigrants. Now, you all know my stand on immigration and immigrants. I don't hate them. I don't hate their various colours or religions or cultures, but really, really hate the fact that we have too many of all of them on this island of ours. Now, put our dire situation together with the government love affair at the moment with UKIP and Le Ferret Farage, and we have a dualism that epitomises the British inability to deal with anything other than small, insignificant problems, which stems from the end of the First World War, when we lost the cream of British blood, both the working man and the privileged, on the fields of Europe. On an off topic, would we go to battle over Belgium again? I think not. Now we have our Deputy Prime Minister throwing his toys out of the pram over the trucks, stating that no Lib Dems were consulted before it went ahead. Well, no, Nick, that's because you really aren't important in this coalition bunch of morons. On a personal note, I think these trucks are the best idea to come out of this country in many years. At last someone, somewhere, is trying in a politically correct way to help these poor people who have clearly lost their way somewhere around the Mediterranean, Pacific, Atlantic and Indian Oceans. I see no problem or racist overtones in it at all. Mind you, we're dealing with a plethora of immigrants themselves objecting and Brits to whom the words black and white minstrel is reprehensible. What seems strange to me in the world of the UK is that we tell blacks, browns and peoples of many differing colours not to be ashamed of their colour. Quite right. But we are telling them to be ashamed of it at the same time because no one is allowed to mention the colour of an ethnic in public or print. If someone is black, they're recognised at first by having a black or a very dark complexion. How else can anybody identify anybody when meeting them if you take no account of their facial colouring or contours? The fact the police were stopping and helping mainly blacks or coloured peoples in those areas is not racist. It's a sad fact that most of the white European immigrants, although equally unwanted or needed, are here by invitation of our greedy employers, our governments and the EU Parliament. Most unfortunately, until we leave the EU, are legal, which is why the police were not stopping them. As most of the objectees were black, Asian or mixed ethnic groups, these are the ones who are usually illegal. Get over it. Now we come to Le Ferret Farage and his odd mindset about trucks, which in his words sparked accusations of racism and were nasty. Clearly he sees them as a defining point in British history, in which even certain members of the elite are clearly worried over the immigration problem which they have created and are seeking to redress the balance. But Le Ferret will gain a huge amount of immigrant votes, well, those legal or not I suppose, if he stands on the anti-racism platform. Le Ferret is already being very careful over the dinner lady versus the Muslim family and bacon debacle, as he relies heavily on the Muslim vote and will do so for the Euro elections next year, about which the Conservatives are apparently getting very rattled. UKIP appeals to many Muslims because it's in their interest to get out of the EU, because many of the areas in the UK are now being overrun by Poles and other Eastern Europeans, and these so-called old immigrants are now being marginalised. So many will vote for Le Farage, not knowing that he will be the last person to get us out of the EU, because he will lose the most shekels by doing so, and moreover it's something that's quite beyond his remit politically. However, the followers of Islam don't know that, but certainly won't vote for any nationalistic party. David Cameron's strategist, Linton Crosby, has come under fire, Daily Mail Monday, by Farage because of a possible plot to smear UKIP councillors before the 2014 Euro elections. He's already criticised the trucks for playing into Farage's hands by giving him publicity. Hell no, they actually played into the British National Party hands by actually bringing the problem into the marketplace of the man in the street. It's bypassed Le Ferret and UKIP in a sense completely. Le Ferret and UKIP are known as the Eurosceptic Party, which is a misnomer by itself. They aren't anti-EU, they are all part of the problem in the EU and very well paid for it. They'll be trying to get as many MEPs as possible as usual. Why bother to put someone into a group that you're trying to bring down or leave? At the same time, various MPs are saying that Crosby was behind the trucks being brought into being in the first place, although this is strenuously denied by the Tories who now blame the Home Office. If it was, then Crosby is my man. They are brilliant and should be rolled out throughout the UK. Mind you, even amongst the odd gatherings or murders of UKIP councillors, one does stand out, that of Dean Perks from Dudley, a PPC for UKIP in the next general elections in 2015, and one guy who believes that thieves should have their hands cut off Sharia style. He believes that Sharia law works as a prevention and prevention is better than a cure. Well, he's right in that saying, but the best prevention of all, Dean, UKIP, Coalition and sheeples is guess what? NIL immigration. That is the best prevention for the future, and I mean nil from the EU states as well. If we have the good fortune to get out of the EU within a reasonable time frame like a year backdated to December 2011, we should be out in time to avoid the Romanians and Bulgarians coming in, although we know there are thousands already over here. UKIP would lose a huge proportion of its funding and we could all go back to looking after our country instead of interfering in everyone else's. Le Ferret expounds that, unlike the BNP, his party is not racist. But we are not racist, and in fact are the only political party to amend its original constitution to open up its membership to ethnic peoples. This move cost us dearly, as the elite knew, and it would, and to keep having this label put back on is dreary and ignorant in the extreme, especially by Le Ferret, who is certainly racist and elitist concerning ex-members of nationalist parties who stoop to enter his arena. He gains more votes from his elected ethnics by coming out and stating that UKIP will never accept members from racist parties. Now by that I would assume he would accept members from Al-Qaeda, the Black Muslims, and indeed any enemy of patriotism, as long as it was ethnic. So he is being racist, he is being anti-white, and the only point that he is true to is that he is being anti-European. UKIP is a test tube baby, conceived by the government, funded by the establishment, and finding its feet under a very different table, making illicit and undesirable friends, and its parents can't control it anymore. Back to poor old Mr Perks and his brouhahas. One statement he made, with which I have no quarrel, is that Enoch Powell was a visionary, to which a Labour, of course, guy, Mr Speller, MP for Warley, where is that, quoted, "Once again this shows the bizarre sort of candidate that UKIP is attracting." No, Mr Speller, it doesn't. It shows the sinister duality of UKIP. In one breath use Sharia law whilst exhorting Enoch, leave the EU whilst milking the golden calf. UKIP is a party that is typical of most of the political whinings of today, in that it doesn't address anything in particular and achieves nothing in fact. And finally, feed me Seymour, feed me, or man, I only came to see PC Plod and now I'm seeing them everywhere. A crop of cannabis plants was found growing in flower pots put out by a council to brighten up a city centre. More than 20 of the illegal plants were seen sprouting amongst begonias and petunias, decorating the streets of Newport, South Wales. The plants were admired by shoppers who failed to realise that the pot plants were actually pot. Police were called in to investigate, but by the time they arrived the plants had been harvested. That is, in police speak, taken. Whoever planted them has been making the most of Newport Council's gardeners' care and fertilisers. Some of the cannabis plants were found less than half a mile from Newport Central Police Station. Officers walk past them every day on their way to work. Dean Beddes, 29, a businessman, was the first to realise just what the plants were. "I'd never seen cannabis growing in the wild before, it was so crazy to see it," he said. "I thought Newport was trying to be a new Amsterdam and doing its best to win the City in Bloom competition." This presenter says, and he told Plod, or did he take 'em? Our elite think it's so bad for us Brits to grow the stuff that they allow the rest of the world to come in and do it for us at a great cost. This is one industry that should be legitimised. At least then this country would get the profit. It wouldn't go abroad to fund terrorism or worse. What pretty plants. My garden could do with a few. You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.